My name is LJ Jones, and this is Maybe One Day. Today, I'm with somebody that you all know. So, comedian, radio host, the world's best dressed in a tracksuit is my guy, my friend, Johnny B.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Good, man. You left out so many details, you know what I mean? Like barbecue pit master, an actor like yourself, vocalist, frisbee golfer. I've never done that. I want to try it, though.
Can we go together?
Yeah, let's go. I think they call it disc golf now.
Disc golf.
Yeah.
See, I went to college, but we didn't do that.
Yeah, this is how fat I used to be. I had a comedian friend of mine tell me last week, he goes, hey, man, you've lost enough weight over the last 2 years. I think you can go disc golfing now. I'm like, I was so fat you didn't trust me walking through the woods. So, yeah.
But also, I appreciate that he thought that you've been wanting to go disc golfing.
Yeah.
Like, that's been the big thing on your mind.
Isn't it everybody's dream at the end of the day?
To go disc golfing?
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's on my bucket list. Mm-hmm. It's on my bucket list. That and Top Golf.
Top golf I've done, not good.
No.
It's the one part of golf that I'm not good at. The driving. Like, I'm pretty good at the short game, and that's what she said. And I'm pretty good with the chipping and all that. But I swing the what do you call it? What's the thing to you? The driver. See? I don't even know what it's called, dude. Yeah, I swing the driver like a left-handed lady.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not good.
How about mini golf? Are we good at that?
Dude, I will bust that butt in mini golf.
Yeah?
Yeah. I play it on the VR.
I haven't touched the VR. I want to, but I'm scared of it. Actually, no. I lied. I did try. My friend Casey, he has one. I tried it, put it on. He had me like around the top of a skyscraper. He said, walk the plank. I walked off, and I was like, oh, no, fuck this. What?
Are you afraid of heights?
No.
I am.
I'm not, but falling off a skyscraper scared me a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to try it. Like, I was drinking one night, and I was like, man, I'm going to download this thing. And then I'm like, or maybe I won't shit my pants in my kitchen. You know what I mean? Like, because that's probably embarrassing. So,
I mean, nobody would know.
I changed my mind. Yeah. You're supposed to have fun with stuff. I don't understand why somebody would pay $500 for a VR headset and go, I need something that may kill me. Like, let me fake walk a plank. Why don't you just download something where your wife fake cheats on you, with some AI guy, like, just make your life real miserable. That'd be awesome.
That Ready Player One, that's the whole thing, right?
It is. It's way too, I'm a little worried that we're going to get to a point sooner than later where virtual reality is so close to real reality, we won't be able to tell the difference. And that goes down the whole rabbit hole of, are we in a simulation and all that?
But did you see, this is months ago that I saw, so it's not even like we're filming this right after April Fool's. I saw this months ago. Warner Brothers is funding a device based on the device from Ready Player One. Mm-hmm. I'm like, but the movie was against it. Like, against living in that, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they're creating this so you can get jobs in the simulation and you can work that. And I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? This is terrible. It's scary.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, but it's coming. We already know it. As soon as they get really good at it, then it won't even matter. We won't be able to tell. Like, right now, they're not good at it. Mm-hmm. That's why Joe Biden looks the way he does, because they can't fake it really well yet. They're like, oh, man, this thing keeps falling downstairs. And, like, it almost looks real, He's like, hey, zippity-doo-dah. They're like, we didn't program him to say that,
I just feel like I'm watching Weekend at Bernie's every time.
Oh, my goodness, man. Like, it's funny and sad at the same time.
It really is.
But but the AI stuff, they're already trying to get us used to it. Like, I was going through, like, the little list of games, and they have, like, hey, it's the Waffle House game where you play Waffle House against other people. I'm like,
this is fighting, right?
No, well, I do have a bar fighting game where you just literally go through and just beat people up. No, there's a game where you're just cooking in a Waffle House against another person cooking in a Waffle House. But I'm like, why don't I just go work at Waffle House? Like,
I keep seeing that on my TikTok. I'm scrolling, and this guy, all of his content is just him in VR working as a cashier at a grocery store.
It's insane.
Like, I did that for years. Why do I want to do it in VR?
Yeah.
You're literally counting out change, and
I want to be, now give me a job where I could be the asshole boss in VR.
Yeah.
I would do that all day long.
Yeah.
Like, I just go in there and your buddy's like cashiering, having a good old time, and I go, Dan, look at this place. It's a goddamn pigsty. You're fired. And he's like, bloop, bloop, bloop. He just has to log off. That'd be awesome. Just walk into the Waffle House like, what do you call these waffles, you pieces of shit? This is horrible. Look at this bacon. It's all floppy. They're like, it's 8-bit bacon, step off. I'm like, fuck you, you're fired. Yeah. I fire everybody in VR, dude. That'd be great.
The New Apprentice.
Just walk into this VR porn. You call this fucking, you know what I mean? Like, get out of here. Damn, what are you doing in here? I just fired you from the Waffle House. Ah, yeah, that'd be great.
The real Billy from Entourage. That's you.
Yeah. Yeah, I want that kind of power. Yeah.
So we just went off, and that's what we do together. But I want the people who don't know you, let's go back to the beginning. We've already listed all the things that you do.
Yeah.
You're obviously very talented in a wide array of things. But where does that start?
Man.
What comes first?
Way, way back. I would say in a bar in the early 70s, a pool hustler met this chick at a diner, and I'm pretty sure he fucked her on the first date. And then 9 months later, bing bong, here I am. No, I mean, I grew up in Tampa, the Seminole Heights, way before it got gentrified. Actually, my part of Seminole Heights is still pretty ghetto.
Yeah.
I drove by there the other day, and there was a drug deal happening on my front porch, My wife's like, that's a lot of people on the front porch. I'm like, it's a big drug deal. Don't look at them. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I grew up. My dad's a real funny guy. He was a college professor and just one of those guys that, always won like instructor of the year because all the kids, I say kids, but, college students loved him so much. And he could have been a stand-up comic. Like, he used to tell me all these dirty jokes. And now I've written a book about all the dirty jokes he told me as a kid that, it's on Amazon. But this isn't a plug for me.
Buy it. They're funny.
I mean, yeah.
Jokes are funny.
It's just classic dirty jokes, And you put it on the back of your toilet in case your phone's dead. You got to go old school and read on the toilet. But yeah, so I mean, I kind of wanted to, I always loved stand-up comedy. I would watch all the old Rodney Dangerfield comedy specials on HBO and all that. And, I loved all the old school comics. I had records of like Red Fox and Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor and George Carlin and all those guys way back in the day. And, it was something that, it was one of those pipe dreams that you never look at it, And then, I also thought I was going to play football. I was like high school and all that. I blew my knee out really bad. And also got told by every scout that if I don't get taller than 5'8.5", I'm never going to play college ball. And they were right because I had some buddies go off and play. Yeah. And I remember going to a game at Florida State right after high school, and they came out of the tunnel, and everybody was like 6'8" and just ripped, like they all looked like Transformers. And I was like, Jesus, man. And one guy was really big, and I go, who's that? And they're like, the kicker. I'm like, oh, crap. That guy's bigger than me. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, Sebastian Janikowski. So, yeah, that was never going to happen. But I got into entertainment. During college, I ended up being a DJ in a nightclub. And I did that because I was singing in a band on Sundays because I grew up also singing kind of like freelance, singing in doo-wop groups around my neighborhood. I was like the one white kid in an all-black doo-wop group. And
you were in a rap group.
For a minute, yeah.
I still want to hear something.
For a couple of years. It's so cringe, dude. It was back in the 80s when rap was easy, though. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Nothing against the forefathers and everything, but the lyrics weren't what the lyrics are,
right.
in the last, the 20, 30 years.
So were you more Cypress Hill or Beastie Boys?
Oh, I was way more Beastie Boys. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was more like Run DMC. Like,
okay. All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
You have a tape because I need to hear it.
I mean, there's probably a tape cassette somewhere, but yeah, dude, if I listened to it now, I would beat my own ass. Like, because I remember like it was just me and a couple other dudes in the neighborhood, and my best friend was trying to be a DJ, and he had like his little turntables. He didn't even have like techniques. Like he had some like really bad, like not even like some knockoff Newmarks, and like he was trying, but he wasn't good. He's just ruining records, and he had a little beat machine. I remember like we thought he was so cool, when he got an 808 and all that stuff. And then a couple other dudes in the neighborhood thought they were rappers, and we got together. And of course, I was like the only one that would rap. Like the other guys would just kind of bob their head in the background. But I remember we called ourselves Domination, right?
Yeah.
And then we found out that there was already a Domination like in Oakland, and we got scared. At like 13 years old, I was like, dude, we're gonna get in trouble. We weren't even thinking about copyright laws.
Right.
We thought like these guys are gonna come like shoot us or beat us up because they're like in Oakland. They're like gangster rap when gangster rap was just popping off. And
pre NWA.
Oh yeah, like before Easy and all that. It was like Ice-T was like starting to say bad stuff, and So I go, we got to change the name. So we changed it to the T-Town Boys. And we just did little talent shows and stuff. But
That's awesome.
it was nothing. It was cute.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I never even got any pussy from it. Like,
No?
just once, you know, at 13, 14, if I could have stumbled into some, you know, some dumb little girl like, he's a rapper. But no, they were like, he's still a fat kid with a mullet. So,
Yeah, but see, no, rap wasn't the cool thing yet.
I thought it was.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And yeah, and I couldn't do like rock music because I didn't like cigarettes, you know. So it seemed like every kid had to smoke cigarettes that wanted to do rock. So, and there was no room for a doo-wop singer in the 80s. So, yeah.
I don't, like, when you said doo-wop, like, I've heard you sing. I know you can sing. I know you can sing all different types of styles. But I'm just trying to imagine, like teenage Johnny just doo-wopping around.
No, before, like preteen Johnny, like 8, 9-year-old Johnny singing like the Platters and the Temptations and, you know, going way back from Motown all the way back to the doo-wop era, you know, like.
You could have started in Forever Plaid on Broadway.
Dude, I would have loved that. Yeah, I would have totally done that. But yeah, so I was singing in a band on Sundays, and there was a after hours club next door, and I remember hanging out, and the owner of the club and myself got to be kind of friends, and his DJ was horrible. And I remember saying like, damn, man, this DJ stinks, dude.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, if you could go up there and do a better job, I'll let you take his job. And I was like, okay. I was cooking at Denny's at the time, like overnights, like as a line cook, making moons over my Hemis and stuff. So I went up there and I said, hey man, boss said take a break. And I had no idea what to do. I just remembered a little bit of how to work the equipment from my buddy, you know, that wanted to be a DJ when I was a kid. So this guy had 2 Technique 1200s. He had a bunch of records and stuff. So I just started like putting on records and playing them, and I got on the mic, and I was able to like talk to people. I always had that ability. So I'm like working the crowd verbally, trying to figure out the equipment. And every time I picked up a record I didn't like, I just started throwing it across the room. It was shattering on the wall, and the crowd was going nuts. I'm like, boot scoot boogie, nope. And I just throw that bitch against the wall. The place was going crazy.
Starting a riot.
Basically, but then I just found a couple. I remember I found like raw bass, It Takes Two, and I played that, and everybody went nuts. And they didn't really play hip hop in this club either. It was kind of like out in the country. And yeah, so he gave me his job. He fired a guy, gave me his job.
Was this out near where we did your birthday show?
Steffner. Yeah. So not quite the country, but almost the country.
But not hip hop town.
Not hip hop, no.
Right.
But I remember having a conversation with the boss. You know, he's like, "Hey man, I don't know if that music's gonna go down around." And this is the early '90s, right? So it was like racism was still pretty prominent, 30 years ago. So he's like, "I don't know if it's gonna work." And I go, "Look, man, like I've been around a lot of clubs in Tampa. Like I was hanging out in Ybor a lot. I said, give me a chance. Just let me play hip hop and see what we could do." And within a month, we were bringing in the Ybor City crowd and everything to this after hours club. It was open like 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. But so that got me into the club scene. Then I got my own band. I was singing next door at the nightclub next door, and figured out the comedy was the way for me because my bandmates kept pushing me and like, "Hey man, you're too funny. Go do comedy." And I'm like, "You just want a better singer. I get it." But yeah, so my guitar player tricked me into going to a comedy club like for a workshop. He said we were going to lunch. That's how you trick a fat person. It's like a net for a fat person. It's like, we're going to get food. You can get them to do anything, right? I was like, hell yeah, I want food. So we walk into this comedy club, and I'm like, this ain't a restaurant. It's a comedy club. And it was, it's actually a pretty historic place. It's not around. It hasn't been around for a while. It's called Comedy Works. It's where Larry the Cable Guy got started, and a few other people, like, back in the 90s. And he tricked me into going in, and I did like this workshop, and then auditioned and ended up doing 3 minutes that night. And then
That's obviously no real prep time.
no,
Like,
just what I worked on that day. And it was just kind of stuff that I kind of did in between songs, when I was singing in the band. It was like, that's why, they were like, be a comic, because you're like, I was like doing a little like preparing in between songs. And I would change lyrics, like not like Weird Al, changing lyrics, but like just here and there, I would change a couple of lyrics every now and then just to work the crowd a little bit and piss somebody off or hit on some dude's girl or something like that. So they're like, yeah, just do comedy. So I did 3 minutes that night, did all right, I guess, because Side Splitters was brand new. The guy that worked there asked me to come the next night to Side Splitters and do 3 minutes. I went over a minute, got yelled at by the owner, almost fought him in the bar, and didn't want to do comedy ever again. I was like, dude, that's what comedy is.
Right.
I want no part of it. I don't want that drama, because he was like yelling at me. Dude, like, who the hell do you think you are? You know, because it was Carrot Top the next night. So he's like, you just went over on Carrot Top. I'm paying them thousands of dollars. You're just, here for nothing. So I didn't do comedy again until the Improv opened in Ybor, like 5 years later. I was like 1995.
Right.
So 5 years later, it opened. They had a big comedy competition, like open mic competition. I was actually just started dealing poker at the Hard Rock before it was Hard Rock. And all the staff there was like, you should be a comedian. You're making everybody laugh in the break room. They pushed me to go to the open mic competition. I won it. And then it kind of like, after that, I was like, I don't want to stop. So I just, after that, just kept going. Open mics, workshops, competitions, whenever I could do. And then kind of steered me from singing and DJing into the comedy realm. And here I am.
So those first couple times that you went up, like, was the confidence there? Like, you're like, you know, you're funny, you know, you can tell stories, but from your DJing and you know, your band performances, you've been on stage, you've been in front of people. So how much do you think that helped you once you started?
Tremendously. Like, I had a big advantage because of already being a performer. Right. So, you know, I it really kind of unfair advantage to a lot of the younger comics at that time. And I was also not as young as a lot of comics. A lot of comics are starting at like 18, 19. I was 28 when I really got into comedy and been performing for 10 years on stage. And so I had a big advantage there. So, yeah, I mean, I really credit all of that. And of course, just, you know, even as a kid, like I said, you know, if it wasn't for the rap group domination, you know, I would have never had to, no. I mean, like, I've always just been the guy, you know, like the class clown that can talk in front of the class. And, you know, I was in theater in middle school and high school, all that crap. So never had a problem with the performing. So it came natural. Also, it was easier for me because I was a visual spectacle, because back then I was over 500 pounds when I started comedy. Like, I was like my 600-pound life big. I should have just got off stage and drove to Houston and saw Dr. Now, like, after every set. But because I was funny and I was big, yeah, people wanted to see this, you know, they wanted to book it. They wanted to, so I was getting gigs way before I should have. I headlined way before I should have headlined, because everybody wanted this big 500-pound funny guy, you know, so it's just like.
How'd that make you feel, though?
I mean, I was happy to get the gigs, right, but at the same time, it was always in the back of my head, like, I kind of know why I'm getting these gigs before a lot of people, and it was pissing a lot of people in the industry off.
Sure.
Because they're like, this guy don't deserve it. He's been doing comedy a year, and they're already paying him to go out and do a tour, and we've been doing comedy, you know, for a few years, and we're still here, not doing anything. So, yeah, I mean, it was looking good for me, you know. My son was about 4 months old when I started comedy, and then about 3 years into comedy, things with him, his mom weren't doing well. She was having way too much fun while I was on the road.
Sure.
So I had to come home, take care of business, and be a dad. Ended up getting custody of my son a couple years later, and so they're with the touring life. So right. Yeah.
And so that takes me to like with my situation. I'm not with my kid's mother anymore, and I had a lot of opportunities out in LA. And, you know, for a moment, like, I was going out there to live permanently. Now I go back and forth. I have a place out there. I go back and forth. But I was trying to go out there permanently, and then, you know, kids was being out in the summers or something like that. And, you know, I had a big heart-to-heart with Drew about this, because, like, I drove across the country. I'm getting into LA, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm making the wrong choice here. It feels like a selfish choice, because in my head I'm thinking, okay, I'm going out here, yes, to pursue my dream, which sounds selfish. Now, that's multifaceted, because I want to teach my kids that they should pursue their dreams no matter what. But also, I'm doing it for me. Part of me is doing it for me. Also, I want to, you know, provide a better life for my kids. But I've just felt like I was doing something wrong. So, like, when you were, like, kind of facing that decision of, you know, having full custody of your son versus being out on the road pursuing your dream, how was it? How was that time for you?
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. It's like a catch-22, right? It's like, you want to be a great dad, but at the same time, you want to pursue this thing you're meant to do.
Sure.
because that's ultimately going to provide a good life for your child, but you have to be absent in order for that to happen. So it's the ultimate catch 22. It reminds me, like, when I was a kid, before my dad was a college professor, he was an engineer for the Department of Defense, and they put him on this job where he was on a ship for like 7 months at a time, making ridiculous money. Like, we moved to the East Coast for a little while over in like Melbourne, and we lived in a big house and everything was great, but he was never home, and we really just wanted our dad. And I remember that as a kid, and I remember my mom was also blowing all the money because she didn't understand how to like balance a checkbook. So my dad's out there like tracking Russian space shuttles allegedly, and she's just blowing the money. They're like, we're ordering pizza every night, whatever. And at the end of the day, when he quit, we were so happy for him to just get a normal job again and like have my dad home so we can have Monday night footballs together and just, weekend camping trips and everything that we did, So I thought about that when I was on the road, and had I had a more solid marriage, because in order to be a performer, you have to have a solid relationship, because it's tough. It's tough for anybody to be able to like, keep their head right. Everybody has needs and all that. So, that marriage, actually the first two marriages, they weren't the right relationships for an entertainer.
Right.
I'm in my third marriage now. She gets it. She's awesome. But I still don't want to leave for too long, not because I'm worried about, her cheating on me or something, even though she is way too pretty for me. I want to be around her, like I really enjoy being around my wife. I really enjoy my dogs, I mean, I like my house, I got a really nice, couch from Ashley Furniture, and, and a big TV, and I don't want to be away from all that. It's my comfort. But I'm also in my 50s now, so
I'll say real quick about your wife. I've done some shows with you. I've come out to support you at some shows. Your wife's almost always there, and I love to see her there supporting you. Like there'll be times like where you're on stage and I'll just look over at her and she's just smiling. I've heard your jokes a lot. I know she's heard them more than me, and she's laughing like she's hearing them for the first time. And it's honestly, it's really beautiful to see her so supported, so happy to see you doing what it is you love and thriving in that moment. I think that's really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to land the right one, and she's I mean, even if we weren't together, I would want to be her friend because she's that kind of a person. She's an awesome person. She's just got that whole aura about her, the positivity, and she's actually funny too. Like,
she is funny.
Like, she doesn't put it out there like on the streets, but at home, she's the funniest person in my house. Like, she is hysterical all the time.
You steal some jokes?
No, I'm not a joke thief. I'm not going to Carlos Mencia, my wife. But she's inspired a lot of jokes. I mean, she's always inspiring them. And we marriage is like a journey, and the journey we're having together is amazing. Like we're going through all kinds of different things. Like I just lost a ton of weight in the last 2 years. She just lost a ton of weight in the last year and a half. And so a lot of my jokes now are kind of like geared towards, I'm still fat, even though I've lost 120 pounds in the last year and a half. She is tiny now. So it's like, it inspires so many, bits that I do on stage. It's really just talking about our life. Like the other day I wrote a joke about us being in the Bahamas, and we're out having this romantic moment, in like chest high water. We're all cuddled up. And in my head, I thought, we looked like, some beautiful couple from a suntan lotion commercial. But in reality, everybody on the beach thought that she was a marine biologist trying to save a manatee. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, oh my God, he's just barely above water. Let me get him. You know what I mean? So, but that's just, she's always inspiring jokes, just being in the area. But yeah, she's great. So yeah, I got custody of my kid, and,
have you and your son had a conversation about all of that?
Oh man, Thanksgiving.
He's an adult now.
Oh yeah, it came up Thanksgiving. He'll be 24 in a couple of weeks, and he's a good kid. Just graduated from USF with like a chemistry degree with all the prerequisites for med school, and of course he's probably now he doesn't want to be a doctor. I don't know what's going on. He's trying to figure it out. Sure. We still pay for a cell phone, and it takes him like a week to text me back. which is BS. That Cats in the Cradle song, real stuff, dude. Like, he lives in Tampa. I just want to see you once in a while, son. God damn it. But we're enjoying Thanksgiving, and my son, he goes, he doesn't watch a whole lot of stand-up, and he's starting to get into it now. Weird, right? He says, Dad, I've been watching a lot of stand-up on Netflix, and I got to be honest, like, I think you're funnier than a lot of the specials I've seen.
I said, Dad, that's gotta.
Yeah, but then what he said next,
Oh,
he said, why don't you have a Netflix special? And I almost spit my turkey out, dude. But it was a funny moment because I just stopped what I was doing and looked at him. I go, you bitch, you're why I don't have a Netflix special. I should have 4 of them by now, you jerk off. What are you talking about? Like, I was Ralphie May's opener. He offered me 300 shows a year and I couldn't because I'm a single dad. Fuck off, bro. Like, ask me why I don't have a Netflix special. Because of you, buddy. You want to know why Bert Kreischer's famous? Because his wife is awesome. And he got to go out and pursue all of his dreams. Not saying that me and Bert are the same people, but there's some parallels. We're the same exact age. We both grew up in Tampa. But and he works. Let me just say this: nobody works harder than Bert Kreischer. So I'm just saying, I didn't have a strong support system, so I had to be a good dad. I had to. And that's what I told him. I go, you realize if I didn't fight and get custody for you and I let your mom raise you in Lakeland, you would maybe be working at a Circle K right now. No shade to anybody who works at Circle K listening right now. You know what I'm saying? Keep those Polar Pop machines clean. But my whole goal was to raise a good child. I said, that is my real job, my number one job, as corny as it sounds. Yeah. And all the way down to like I didn't want him to grow up fat because I grew up as a fat kid, and all the bullying that comes with that and all the health issues that come later in life. And so I wouldn't even let my kid drink soda or eat candy very often. I wanted to make sure that he just had the perfect childhood, made sure he had everything he needed, and he was a great kid. So and he was respectable and straight A student, got a full scholarship for college. So everything's great, but don't come to me and be like, why don't you have a Netflix special? I'll choke your ass out.
Now he's approaching 28. So now the question is, after getting his bachelor's in chemistry, what do you do when he comes to you and says, Dad, I'm going to try stand-up?
Don't do stand-up. I would tell nobody to do stand-up right now. You better get you a TikTok. You better learn social media like a bitch, because that's the real comics now.
Yeah.
I just did a comedy festival here in town, Tampa's first major comedy fest, and I only got the invite because I'm one of the OG Tampa comics, but I'm opening up for Instagrammers, that I'd never heard of before. I'm like, who's this person that I'm on stage before? And I go on their Instagram, they got 700,000 followers. I'm like, holy shit, okay, so that's more than my 3,800 followers, so. That's where the world is now, man. So I'm out there right now trying to get, I'm right now 81 people away from being monetized on TikTok.
Nice.
And is it nice? I'm 52.
So wait, hold on. What's your TikTok? Let the people know.
Johnny B. Tampa. Holla at your boy.
Let him know you're coming from this show too, just so he can thank me later.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah.
TikTok, I don't know. Because I've done well on TikTok with my podcast Unhinged. We've done well. We made some money off it, and I enjoy podcasting. This is a little different because it's the way it's filmed, and it's just kind of a sit down thing. But I enjoy podcasting. That show specifically because it's with my kid's godfather, my best friend. It's just an excuse for us to hang out.
Yeah,
we both have jobs, and I have kids, and he has a wife, and it's a good excuse for us to just say, we gotta go do this podcast so we can make 30 cents on TikTok real quick.
Yeah,
and that's what I enjoy about it. But it's the whole thing. As an actor, my agent is like, oh, you better start posting more on your Instagram stories. I don't like. There used to be some anonymity to being an entertainer, right? Even with comedians, you're telling a lot of your life story and whatever on stage. But people didn't need to know that you ate at Denny's last night after the show. You
right.
know what I mean? I don't know. I don't love the social media aspect. I understand it. I could do it. I just don't want to.
I mean, I don't like the full-time job approach. It's
Yeah.
like I enjoy, getting myself out there because ultimately I want them to come see me do stand-up in real life. And it does work. I get people to come out and see me because of TikTok and because of Instagram and all that. And that's really cool when that happens. But like to just, and like you said, in order to beat the algorithm, you have to be persistent. And it's like all day long. Like my wife and I were on a cruise in December, and there must have been 20 people with a gimbal walking around with their iPhone, and they're filming their entire vacation. And
Living it.
you know what I mean? And
Fun.
I'm like, holy shit, dude, this is like virtual reality. Like you're not even real. Like you're not enjoying your real life. You're constantly posting. And I get it. If you're making money, I guess, but man.
But it's people that have no interest in monetizing their social media. They're still just doing it. And I understand, like, you want to keep those memories, but also you have to live in those moments.
Yeah.
Like even like I've never went to too many concerts. I do shows, but I've never gone to too many. So this year I'm trying to go and see more concerts. I just saw Black Eyed Peas in Strawberry Festival the other day. Never thought I'd see them in concert before, but a friend asked. I went. Just everybody just has their phones out and they're just filming the whole thing. Like I think I got a video. Like just I mean you got to get the I gotta feel it. You got to get that moment.
I mean, yeah.
But the rest of the show I'm just enjoying.
I mean, yeah, I try to do that too. And we're all addicted to our phones. I mean, like I bitch about it, and then the other day I was tweeting about how people were on their phones too much. I'm like, first of all, I'm on my phone, and second of all, why am I still on Twitter?
X.
I know. I had the blue check, like the real blue check.
You've had it a while.
But then I got it yanked away, and I refused to pay for it. I'm one of those guys. Yeah. I'm like, I ain't doing it, man. I had a real check, because I was Ralphie May's opener and a real check. But I still once in a while, if you don't pay for the blue check now, they don't push your tweets. And I mean, I had tweets back in the day where I was getting thousands of likes on them, and it was like, as a comedian, it feels good to be able to just write a funny thought and get that response. A like is like a laugh, So it's like, okay, I got that feedback, because that's what we need.
My two favorite people to follow on Twitter is you and Matt Fernandez.
Yeah, Matt's another old school blue check. Yeah,
too hysterical. Like just this, like just out of nowhere, just something short, simple, but hilarious.
Matt's the best. I wish I was as good as Matt at tweeting. He's absolutely ridiculous. Like with just the quick one-liners, and he still drops them on Instagram and Facebook. For all the boomers.
People on Threads anymore?
I've signed up for it and I get notifications, but nah, man.
I wanted it to work, but Instagram. I was willing to pay for the check. I didn't want to the blue check, but then like you can't have your stage name.
Yeah, I applied for it also, and they were like, you had to send a picture of your driver's license.
Right.
And I'm like, that's my government name, right? Like, that's not, like, I mean, it's close. My government name is John, but I've been called Johnny since I was 6 years old. My neighbor, Mr. Brooks, started calling me Johnny when I was 6. He's like, Johnny B, what's up? Your white ass. What you doing, Johnny B? Always out in the yard talking shit to people. So it just caught on. The whole neighborhood called me Johnny B because of Mr. Brooks. And anybody calls me John, it's a bill collector. I'm hanging up on you, bro. Like, it ain't happening, kid.
Well, that's like me. My government name is Larry.
Gross.
It's terrible. It's
I'd
disgusting.
have to kick my own ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want it to say Larry on there.
Larry's an uncle that drinks too much.
Yeah. Well, yeah. My grandmother holding me as a baby. I'm never calling him Larry ever.
Why would you do that?
This is LJ. Larry is an old motherfucker's name.
Yeah, LJ's sexy. Yeah.
I know you thought so.
Absolutely. I'm half hard right now. Yeah. So back to me and my journey. Podcasting. I started doing it when podcasting was like still new. Like
you were doing it before Rogan.
Yes. And being in the comedy scene, one of my comedian friends had a podcast, and he was one of these like IT nerds that like knew all the bells and whistles and how to do all the stuff way before anybody else.
Correct.
like he knew how to stream before it became like, before Zoom, before StreamYard and all these things became like easier for like commoners to use.
Yeah.
He was developing these programs and stuff, and he had this massive following, and I stepped in and started being like his co-host, and it was crazy, like navigating the internet in 2007, like I didn't understand how trolls worked. So at first my feelings were getting hurt because people are just talking shit about me on the internet. And I'm like looking at chat boards. And I'm like, oh my God, why is this person saying this about me? So it actually, it helped callous me a lot, So after about 6 months of that, I was like, oh, okay, this is just what the internet is. Yeah. But we got really popular to the point where he moved the podcast to LA in 2010. And I couldn't go because I'm a single dad.
Right.
I can't just take my son away, across the country and all that. He's got roots here. And in retrospect, I wish I would have.
Yeah.
Because the guy that replaced me on that podcast was a guy named Tom Segura. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's doing well, Yeah, he's doing pretty good. I remember working with him when he was a middle act. That's how long I've been in comedy, like at the old Improv. Let's
go through the long list of comics that you've worked.
Oh God,
because your resume is serious.
I don't even know if I can remember. I can just name off a few.
My favorite story that you told me is the Charlie Murphy story.
Yeah. I was I was one of a couple of people that he liked to work with him when he was in town. So I would get the phone call to do the week with him. He would always come to the Improv in Ybor. The first time I worked with him, I thought he hated my guts. Like the entire week, he didn't say a word to me. He was a weird dude. The first day I meet him, I was hosting. He brought his own middle act, and then of course he was headlining. And to be honest, he wasn't very good the first couple times I worked with him. You could tell he was still trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
funny guy.
So this was early on.
Yeah, this is 2010-ish, 2011 probably. I'm just guessing. But he was still trying to figure out stand-up. And he finally did. Like, a couple of years before he passed, he got really good. But the first time I meet him, I go up in the green room like I would do anybody if I was hosting, introduce myself, ask them how they want to be brought up. Is there any material that they kind of don't want me to touch on because I don't want to step on any toes with any subject matter? Just trying to be professional, I think I hate it when I do a show and the host never even walks up and shakes my hand, says hi or anything. It's like, you're hosting for me, what I mean? Not that, I want you to kiss the ring or anything, but, just be courteous, like Jesus. That's like never talking to your server at a restaurant, just like, get my goddamn tea. But, so I walk into the green room, he's eating like a pound of Brussels sprouts in a giant bowl, just Brussels sprouts. Yeah. Cause he was like lean and shredded.
Oh, shit.
And his opener is a big old fat guy, nice guy named Freeze Love. He's also a rapper and an actor. And it was so weird because Charlie didn't talk. He just kept eating Brussels sprouts. And Freeze did all the talking for him. Like we were translating. Like, what he didn't know is I speak black very well. You know what I mean? But he's like, hey man, good to meet you, man. Freeze, super nice guy. And he's like, I go, hey, I'm Johnny, I'm the host, da da da. And he's like, oh, cool, man. Well, Charlie's happy to be here, da da da. I'm like, he's right there, man. Like he's right there. He could talk, but he's just eating Brussels sprouts. And I was like, hey, is there anything you want me to, how you want me to bring you up? Da, da. And we had the little conversation. He's like, yeah, man, we're gonna have a good week, man. Everything's gonna be great. Charlie never even looked at me. He's just eating Brussels sprouts and looking for it. I'm like, all right, this is crazy. And of course he smelled like all the weed, Sure. So I'm like, if I was that high, I'd probably be eating Brussels sprouts too. He probably thought they were potato chips. I don't know. So there was 7 shows. I do 6 shows, and he never says a word to me. And I'm like, man, he hates me. Like he just hates me. I don't know why he hates me, but he hates me. 7th show was like the Sunday night show. I get up, I do my set, I bring him up, and right out the gate, he goes, hey, real quick, give it up for Johnny B. He goes, man, this boy has been crushing it all weekend, and I ain't said a motherfucking word to this boy, man. Like, he thinks I hate him, man. I just got social anxiety, and I'm like, me too now, you know what I mean?
Thanks.
But we hung out afterwards, and like he was super nice, and he's like, yeah, man. He goes, after like the 3rd day I didn't talk to you, I figured I'd just fuck with you the rest of the weekend and wait and talk to you on Sunday. I'm like, yeah, you definitely ruined my weekend. But he offered me like a European tour. Like, he's like, you want to come with me and Freeze and do a tour in Europe? And I'm like, nope, single dad, got to go home, you know?
Thanks a lot, son.
Dude, so many times in my life, my son has like career blocked the shit out of me. Like, if my son wasn't 6'5.5", I beat his ass all the time, but I don't want to get my ass kicked by my child. So like,
Oh no, that would be.
yeah. So I mean, like every time he would come to town, like, you know, I would get the phone call. There was there was a lot of guys like that, like John Witherspoon, Pops, you know, like
Legend.
yeah, absolutely. He's such a nice guy. Like I would actually go pick him up from the airport and you know, take him back to the hotel. And it was so funny because I drove like a Honda Element, and he was always so nice. He's like, I like this car. It's like a box. It's like a box. Like, what do you call it? And I'm like, man, stop fucking with me, dude. Like, you think I like this thing? Like, you think pussy's just hopping in the window while I'm driving? You know, like it's economical. He goes, no, I like it. I like the color on it. And it's green, John. It's green, but it's affordable. But no, he was a nice guy and a hustler. Wow, now that I think about it, that's everybody I opened for is dead. Ralphie, you know, like I said, Ralphie was the first person that like took me to theaters, you know, 2-man shows, you know, doing like Strass Center in Tampa, or the Capitol Theater in Clearwater, or Hard Rock Live in Orlando.
Ralphie's one of those guys I wish I could have seen live.
You really do, because
I've seen his specials, but
not
being in
the
the room is different.
Not the same. And he would get mad about how they would handle his specials, especially Netflix. He said, man, they would take it and chop it up so bad that they're taking out taglines and like even ripping up the punchlines sometimes. And it's not representative of what he did in real life. Like I watched him like do 3 hours and just murder, like just slap him around. But he was one of the nicest guys in comedy, like maybe the nicest ever. Overpaid his openers. I was watching an interview with Matt Rife, who, you know, was really, really popular for like a year, and now he's kind of
alienated.
He pissed off all the ladies that wanted to fuck him when he did a black eye joke on a special. Well, look, man, y'all want to fall in love with somebody before you get to know him. But he was actually on Bert's podcast, and he was telling a story about meeting Ralphie May. And it was like almost the exact same situation with me. He goes, yeah, Ralphie, I was young, and then he paid me $500 to open for him, which is exactly what he paid me, like for 20 minutes, like no matter how big the venue was. And he goes, and then he gave me like some weed, and I was like, yep. He gave me an edible, and it's still in my sock drawer at the house. So if any cops are listening, don't raid me. But I remember we were in the green room, and he goes, hey, baby, because everybody knows Ralphie May. It sounds like an old black lady. He goes, hey, baby. He goes, take this. And I'm like, what is that? He goes, this is for the apocalypse. I'm like, what? Because, I mean, like, I'll partake, but I'm very picky because for me, there's a fine line between curing my anxiety and giving me the worst anxiety of my life.
Absolutely.
And it's usually a one extra hit, and I won't mess with edibles because I don't want to have a 10-hour anxiety attack. But he gives me this thing, and it was like some 200 milligram chewable. And he's like, this is for the apocalypse. And I go, explain. He goes, if the news tells you the rock is coming, eat this and it won't even matter. I'm like, all right. So it's in my sock drawer in case it happens. You know, we have this eclipse coming up. Everybody's talking about it on TikTok. Maybe I have to eat that Ralphie. It's probably not all the weed's gone from it now. It's like 10 years old. But
I don't know. You might be high for 2 weeks.
That's fine. I have my own eclipse. But he was great. I worked with Mitch Hedberg a couple of times way back in the day. Another guy that died after I worked with him. So, hey, good luck after this filming. Yeah, so he was great.
Did you see Bob Saget before?
I worked with Bob Saget. Yeah, super nice guy. I didn't know he was filthy dirty until the first time I worked with him.
Yeah.
First time I worked with him, I was like, oh, cool, man. I just got asked to open for Bob Saget. He's like America's dad. This is good.
Were you figuring out how to clean up your act?
No, not really. Like, I was his opener. So normally as an opener, you don't go real dirty anyway.
Right.
Unless it's like a theme show, like a dirty show, which I'm doing. I'm booking in Ybor City right now in Tampa once a month if you want to go see one. Anyway, but I at a haunted speakeasy. It's gonna be wild. But yeah, you gotta check it out.
You need the edible for that.
Oh, I might. But yeah. So I walk in the green room with Bob Saget, and right away he's just like, He's like, hey, how the fuck are you? And I'm like, ooh, hey, Danny Tanner, calm it down. And then I saw a stand-up, and I'm like, whoa, like wild stuff, but just a murderer, just a classic. One of the guys I looked up to in the 80s, he was on one of those Rodney Dangerfield specials. First time I saw him, fantastic. But I mean, yeah, I mean, all the way down the line, I mean, I've worked with Joe Rogan. I've worked with, I was the house MC at the Improv for a long time, so I got to work with all the people. I mean, I remember like Amy Schumer being middle act and like taking her weed to the condo, like way back then. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton.
I think it's interesting because I feel like not a lot of people outside of comedy would say this, and maybe even some LA or New York people might not say this too. But Tampa really feels like it's like it's a hot place for comedy, and I don't know if it feels like that because we're here and we're in it. But I have heard other comedians say that, and you're seeing a lot of people start comedy here, grow here, Bert being one, and now Jay Legend, he's out doing
I mean, you got JB Ball. He's touring with Brad Williams. He's worked for Kevin Hart and HBO. You got Cam Bertrand, America's Got Talent, and just millions and millions of TikToks and everything else. And he's living in Austin now, where a lot of them are, because that's like the mecca now with Rogan's Club. But I mean, yeah, Tampa's produced a lot of, and this whole area. A lot of people don't know this, but Cat Williams started here. So, and he was in St. Pete. So just a ton of people, but it's also a destination now.
Sure.
Side Splitters is one of the
premier clubs.
It's one of the most loved clubs in the country for comics. Comics love to come here. That's why if you go look at their calendar every weekend, it's a murderer. Like it's like household name crusher every weekend. It's Bobby Kelly's and the Mark Normans, and they're there every weekend. Like it's a no miss club, and it's a classic feel. Like you go there and it feels like a club from the 80s or 90s. You smell the popcorn, Like,
I know I want to see Miss Pat next time she's a Side Split.
She's a killer. Yeah,
I laugh so hard. I've seen her specials. I've seen her live before. She's hysterical.
Well, yeah, she's part of that Cellar crew in New York, and. They don't produce a lot of garbage. There's a lot of murderers out of that scene. Like, God, I took a gig down south a couple of years ago to open for Big J when he was down there. He's one of those guys that
also a killer.
Love him, and listen to all of his podcasting stuff and his Sirius show and all that. So when they asked me, well, hey, do you want a middle in Naples? And my first thought is, I'd rather headline. Like I've been doing this a while, but I don't mind middling a great club for a great comic. Like I'll never be too big for that. Like they can call me right now at the Funny Bone and call me at Side Splitters and be like, hey, do you want a middle? And most of the time it's going to be somebody I want to work with.
Sure.
Anyway, I mean, I did a week with April Macy a few months ago. She was dope. Another murderer. You're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, like at this point, I just want to be on stage all the time. So my calendar's
you're booked a bit.
It's better than it's ever been right now.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and I'm calling it the All Florida Tour because we have so many rooms in Florida. I'm working every weekend. I don't even have to leave. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of comics are moving here. I mean, like during the pandemic, they figured it out. They're like, we can actually go work in Florida and, it's not locked up. And
not in our cars honking at the comedians.
Oh my God, I almost did a show like that. I'm so glad I didn't do it.
I wish you did, just so I could hear what you thought of it.
I did
not hearing laughs.
I did one Zoom show, and like the whole audience was like on their on the monitor, and it got to the point where they weren't laughing at my material, and I wanted to kill myself in front of them. So I just started roasting every person in the Zoom. I'm just like, oh, yeah, you think you're funny? Eric W? And I'm like, and then they love that. Now they're laughing. They're like, yes, this guy's fucking killing us. I'm like, yeah. Now this is what really, that you talking about roots? Like growing up in Seminole Heights in Tampa, the first comedy I ever did was playing the dozens on the street corner, like your mama jokes.
Right.
So at the end of the day,
or roast battles.
Oh yeah. At the end of the day, if it comes down and I have to go to my roots and just insult you, it's probably that's my wheelhouse.
I know, but be careful. Can't offend people now.
Oh yeah, I can. I've been trying to get canceled for several years, man.
I've been in some of your shows where the people sitting next to me, they're like, "Did he just say that?" I was like, "Yeah, he did."
Yeah. My favorite thing was when somebody tells me I can't say something,
Right.
and I just said it, you know? Had somebody say that to me, you know, a couple of weeks ago. They're like, you can't say midget. I'm like, oh, I can. Yeah. And now I'm going to say a lot more. So
Let me get this podcast canceled, man.
no, dude, midgets don't care, dude. It's the tall people that care. You know what I mean? Like, calm it down. Calm it down. Jeez.
I have a comedy question for you.
Yeah.
This is something Joan and I have we've discussed a lot. I was listening to Andrew Schultz's podcast, the Playground podcast.
Yeah.
And he had Bert on. Have you seen that episode?
I'm not, no.
It was a great listen, but Andrew said something that Bert kind of pushed back on, but Andrew just stood tall, and I disagree with it. He had said, he was talking to Bert specifically about his style of comedy and how he tells his stories, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, he said, as a comic starting out, you don't have the right to tell your stories. He's like, you have to live a life worth telling. Like, you have to live a life worth telling jokes about. Like, and until you've done that, you need to get on stage and tell topical jokes. And I'm paraphrasing it, but I was like, I totally disagree with that. Now, there's different styles of comedy. You know, you have a Seinfeld who will get up and what's the deal with Pop-Tarts, and then you have Ray Romano who will get on and talk about his kids. Like, there's just different styles.
Yeah.
And I just completely disagreed with the thought that you have to earn the right to talk about your life.
I mean, yeah, like you said, there's different styles. And it's really like, who knows, you know, how anybody's life has gone.
Right.
Like, maybe somebody's been around for 40 years, but they don't have a lot of cool stories. They've just worked in a cubicle and they've had kind of a lame life. Maybe they're 25, but they've done a lot of stuff to talk about.
Right.
And there's, like you said, there's different styles. Like, Seinfeld's an observationalist, you know? So he's like, what is the deal with this wall? You know, so he's looking at stuff and talking about it, which is great, you know, if that works for you. Then you got guys that do one-liners and things like that, and that's kind of antiquated, and people don't really want that. I think people want to be stimulated a lot more, and I think what he was trying to say is, like, stories are what people want. They want you to bring the audience into your life and make it funny, because most of the time it's relatable. Like, when I talk about my 2 divorces, I talk about being a single dad, or I talk about, you know, being 500 pounds and now not being 500 pounds, or if I talk about, like, you know, any kind of experience that I've had, you know, usually somebody in the audience or most people can relate to it to a certain extent. And that's the funniest thing to a lot of people. That's kind of comedy I enjoy too. I like to hear people talk about, like, real life stuff, because it kind of resonates. I go, oh yeah, I get it. I feel you on that one, you know. It's like, because at the end of the day, we can all kind of, like, you know, we can all agree on certain things, no matter where you are politically or anything else, you know. Like, everybody hates Mondays, you know what I mean? So you could all kind of agree on some things. But then again, like, you know, I also like topical stuff too. The only problem with topical stuff is you can only use it for a minute.
Yeah.
So to me, topical is more for podcasting or, you know, my radio show.
I was going to say, it's nice to have your radio show where you
Yeah.
can get in, and whatever happened that day, you can get in and talk.
And that's what I do.
Get your jokes off. Like, it's when we haven't talked about the radio show at all. And
I know, crazy.
We're running short on time. But I do want to ask, like, because I know you did a competition to get the show, and we've never had that discussion. I'm kind of curious, like, because when you did that competition, that was around the time I was just starting to listen. I was still in high school, and I was starting to listen. I remember when you had the BDRS show. Like, was that
after? Yeah,
it was after, or that was the first show?
No, it was the second. So
Second, okay.
Yeah, so I was friends with our morning show guy, Mike Calta, being a stand-up comic. He actually came in, and him and Galvin, his co-host, did our podcast, my buddy's podcast that went out to LA.
Right.
They came in and sat in on our podcast. First time I met Mike Calta. And he walked away from that like going, dude, you're funnier than the host. You should be on the radio. Like, you have good radio chops. And then he would mess with me for years after that. You know, a couple of years, he's like, dude, put a demo in to our program director, you know, like, come work for the Bone. And I was like, nah, man, I was timid. I didn't want to do it. Then he calls or texts me one day. It's like 2012. And he's like, they're doing a competition for the next radio personality. It's all sponsored by, you know, Bud Light and some other companies, local companies. And it's a casting call down in Ybor City at the Ritz. And I said, all right, fine, I'll do it. And like a couple hundred people showed up. Every comedian wanted a radio spot on the #1 station, and every podcaster came out. And yeah, so I ended up winning that competition, got a 90-day contract, which really they just gave me $1,000 and brought me in on a weekend with a couple of Calta's producers. It was John Brennan, who's now my boss, and Spanish, who's the executive producer now. He was an intern at the time, I believe, for Calta, just got hired. And I did the weekend with them, and then I came back the next weekend because they told me I had 90 days, and I had to get let in by a janitor, and then I went in to board op that was working, took out all the replays, cracked the mic for me, and I did that for a couple weeks until the board op taught me how to work the board, taught me a lot about radio, and after about a month and a half, I went back to the boss and said, hey, can you hire me like officially so I don't have to sneak in with a janitor every night? And he goes, dude, you were supposed to do one weekend. I go, what? He goes, are you serious? You've been coming in every weekend and doing a show? And I go, yeah, midnight to 3, Saturdays and Sundays. That's what you... And he goes, no, you've been trespassing. So he goes, go to lunch, come back, and we'll talk about it. So I went to lunch for about an hour and came back, and he's just laughing. He goes, dude, I just pulled a bunch of tape from the weekend. He goes, you're pretty good. He goes, I'm going to hire you, dude. He goes, this is the craziest shit I've ever done. Like, yeah. I'm going to hire a guy that's been breaking in every weekend. And he goes, I'm going to make you my project. You're going to be the next Mike Calta. I promise you. You're going to be a big deal in this town. And then like 3 weeks later, he was gone. And he retired or whatever happened. Yeah, so I did Midnights for a while. It's called the Midnight Meltdown. And then I changed to the Johnny B show later because branding. And yeah, 10 and a half years later, I'm here on the nighttime guy still, Monday through Friday. But yeah.
Hey, I love anytime I get to come and do your show. I know, you currently have a lot of different, people come in and co-host, and I'm just letting you know I'm available.
Yeah.
Just put my name on the show, and I'm in.
Done, dude. The Johnny and LJ show. That's what I've always wanted.
Johnny, this has been amazing. I'm so grateful that you did this. But honestly, like over the years that we've gotten to know each other and I've started doing comedy, you've always just been so gracious with your time and just always, open to and giving advice and critiques and just kind of just being, super kind about it too. Like I might have bombed and you'd be like, that was really great, but let's just twist it like.
I'll be honest with you, yeah.
But you're still kind. You're not beating me down with it.
Well, somebody did that for me. Yeah, I remember the very few people that did that for me when I started out, and I always want to be that person,
right?
Not the person that's worried about the next person replacing me or just being an asshole because I think I'm better than everybody. I can be better than everybody and still be nice.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So, Johnny, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
This has been maybe one day.